The wind rattled the window panes, and the rain drummed a melancholy tune against the glass. It was the kind of day that begged for a good book and a cup of hot chocolate. Eleanor, snuggled up on the sofa with a thick novel, sighed contentedly. The scent of old paper and leather filled her with a sense of calm. She loved visiting this little bookstore whenever she could. It was a quaint place with creaky floorboards and shelves laden with books from bygone eras. Each volume held the promise of adventure or romance, a chance to escape into another world. Today, though, the story in her hands had been written by fate itself. Eleanor was drawn to an old leather-bound diary tucked away on a dusty shelf. Its pages, brittle with age, whispered tales of a bygone era. The diary had no title, and its cover was devoid of any markings, yet it seemed to call to her, beckoning her to uncover its secrets. Curiosity piqued, she opened it slowly, careful not to tear the fragile pages. As she turned through the diary, she found entries detailing a young woman's life in the early 20th century. The writer, Clara, spoke of stolen glances, secret smiles, and a love that seemed as fresh and vibrant as if it were written yesterday. There were also sketches, delicate drawings of a handsome young man, with soulful eyes and a captivating smile. His name, James, was mentioned often in the diary, along with endearing nicknames like Jay and My Love. It was evident that he was the subject of Clara's affection, the recipient of her deepest feelings. As Eleanor delved deeper into the diary, she became more engrossed in Clara's story. Theirs was a tale of forbidden love, a love that transcended time and whispered promises of eternity. But as the story unfolded, a sense of foreboding crept into Eleanor's heart. Clara's entries grew more frantic, filled with fear and desperation. She wrote of a looming separation, of a love that was being torn apart by forces beyond their control. Then, as suddenly as it began, the diary ended. The last entry was dated abruptly, leaving Eleanor with a sense of unease and a yearning for resolution. Who had torn them apart? What had become of their love story? Lost in thought, Eleanor turned the brittle page, half expecting to find an answer. But instead of finding solace, she discovered something else entirely, something that made her gasp in surprise. Tucked between the last two entries was a folded piece of paper, a love note that had been carefully hidden within the diary all these years. With trembling hands, she unfolded the note, revealing elegant script that spoke of eternal devotion and unwavering love. It was signed simply, "Forever yours, James." Then, to Eleanor's utter astonishment, she noticed a date written in the margin, a date that coincided with the ending of Clara's last diary entry. Could this be the answer she had been seeking? Was this the resolution to the mystery that had been woven into the fabric of the diary? Driven by an insatiable curiosity, Eleanor continued her search, hoping to uncover more about James and the fate that had befallen him and Clara. As the afternoon wore on, the bookstore fell silent, the only sound the ticking of the old clock on the wall. Suddenly, Eleanor's gaze fell upon a faded photograph nestled in a crevice of the diary. The image showed a young couple, their faces filled with joy, their arms entwined as if in a timeless embrace. In that instant, Eleanor felt as if she had stumbled upon a secret shared only between them. Who were they? And how did they fit into the enigmatic puzzle of the diary? As she stared at the photograph, she noticed something peculiar. The background of the picture was familiar, strangely reminiscent of the bookstore she now occupied. It was as if the past had come alive, reaching out across the years to touch her. Could this be the connection that linked the diary to the present? Determined to unravel the enigma, Eleanor decided to investigate further. The bookstore's owner, a kindly old man with twinkling eyes, proved to be a wealth of information. According to him, the diary and the photograph had been part of a collection left behind by an elderly customer who had passed away. He recalled the customer as a quiet, solitary woman who had spoken little of her past. Yet there was something about her, a certain wistfulness in her eyes, that hinted at a life deeply etched with memories and emotions. Could this woman have been Clara herself, safeguarding her precious memories until they too became a thing of the past? As Eleanor pondered this, she noticed a name subtly carved into the windowsill, a name that echoed through time, Clara. It was as if the very walls of the bookstore were whispering secrets, sharing stories of those who had come before. Overcome with emotion, Eleanor felt a profound connection to Clara. a sense of responsibility to honor her memory by uncovering the truth behind her story. With renewed determination, she returned home, clutching the diary, the photograph, and the love letter close to her heart. Each item was a tangible link to the past, a piece of the puzzle she was determined to solve. Days turned into weeks as Eleanor pored over the diary, the photograph, and the love letter, searching for clues to unravel the mystery. She learned that Clara and James's families had been longtime rivals, their feud dating back generations. Despite the animosity between their families, Clara and James had dared to love each other, their bond growing stronger with each stolen glance and secret rendezvous. However, their happiness was short-lived. When their families discovered their forbidden romance, they were torn apart. James was sent away to study, while Clara was kept under close watch, her freedom curtailed as her family sought to protect her honor. As the days passed, their love letters became their lifeline, their words carrying the weight of longing and devotion across the miles. But then the letters stopped abruptly, leaving Clara in a state of despair and uncertainty. With no answers, Eleanor resolved to take matters into her own hands. She delved into local archives, poring over old newspapers and historical records in search of any mention of James. Her hope was that if she could locate his family tree, she might be able to trace his descendants, and perhaps even uncover the truth behind his disappearance. Weeks turned into months, and just when Eleanor's hope began to dwindle, she found a lead. A faded newspaper article from the time period mentioned a prominent businessman named James Blackwood, who had returned from his studies abroad to the dismay of his family. Could this be the James from the diary? Determined to follow this lead, Eleanor tracked down the Blackwood family tree and discovered that James had indeed returned home. But instead of continuing his father's business, he had vanished without a trace. All that remained of him were scattered accounts of his enigmatic ways and rumors that he had run off with a mysterious woman. Armed with this new information, Eleanor was closer than ever to solving the mystery, but she needed more. She returned to the archives, determined to uncover every last detail, and that's when she found it. A faded shipping manifest listing the passengers aboard a steamer that had set sail for America. Among the names listed was one that sent a jolt of recognition through her: Clara Beaumont. Could this be the answer she had been seeking all along? Had Clara followed James to America, leaving behind the only tangible pieces of her story in the old diary? Eleanor's heart raced as she realized the gravity of her discovery. The diary, the photograph, and the love letter were not just remnants of a bygone era, but fragments of a love story that had defied the boundaries of time. They were physical manifestations of a bond that had endured, whispering tales of devotion and sacrifice across the decades. As she held these precious relics close, Eleanor felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. She had uncovered a love story that had touched the hearts of those who had lived it and those who had stumbled upon its remnants. The forgotten letter had found its way back to her, not just as a piece of history, but as a reminder of the enduring power of love.